Shar, let's talk about trends. Let's do it. So, whatever you're selling, whoever you're selling it to, we see things that show up in businesses everywhere.
We do, and we work with a lot of different personality types. Of course, what they have in common is being that kind of high achieving and intense personality, but they are in different stages and walks of life. I would say some of the top patterns I see are if it's not an area of expertise for that person, the resources that they invest. I have seen people be able to listen to like the newest guru or pick up a sales book, or this actually often happens with first-time founders where they'll come back and say, I know my product is $100,000 a year, but my founder friend is having great success with this specific strategy. And let's say the founder friend is having a product that's $30 a month. So not having the exact knowledge of what is good and what is not good, that level of discernment, but still being growth oriented and wanting to constantly invest and get in new information. I would say that is actually a top pitfall that comes up, and it comes from such a beautiful place of just wanting to grow.
It does. Yeah, it's easy to read a post about this person that you know in real life who tried this thing, bought this tool, used this trick, and they were able to produce all of this amazing success. And picturing yourself in that success and believing that if you just do the thing, you're going to find that same exact success. But that is not the same as figuring out what parts might apply to your business, if any. And I think that comes from a place of being in charge of everything at that stage of the business and only having a finite amount of time to dedicate to being the marketer, being the salesperson, being the product person, raising investment. I mean, you're wearing all of those hats. And so you need hacks, you need ways to save time and get to the right thing. But if you're choosing the wrong thing over and over, you often would be much better off to have paused and done some deep research in that category to come up with the right answer the first time.
Yeah. Another one I would say that you actually do a really great job at is time and energy management. How do I manage my actual physical energy throughout the entire week when I'm working at such an intense level? And how do I effectively manage my time in a way where by the end of the week, I don't feel overwhelmed, but I actually feel on top of things?
Yeah, I think all high performers fall into this trap because we're trained from babies that if you just work hard and you lean into something and you dedicate your time to it and you give it your all, that's the way to find success. And they're not considering that part of what they need to give their all to is their physical and mental and emotional health.
Yes, absolutely. And when you're not doing that, there's a lot of dysfunctions that end up happening. And I would say that's actually another pattern I see is a lot of high performers that we work with don't understand dysregulation in their nervous system. They're still in a place where they think when I'm struggling, if I end up saying, wow, this task was really hard for me to do, let's say at the end of the day, it somehow means something about my level of commitment, or I'm not strong enough, or something along those lines, when in reality, it's just a physiological reaction that your body is having. And I would say that is one of the common pitfalls in some of the high performers we work with is just not fully having that education on their nervous system. So not knowing how to be able to utilize all of the tools of their nervous system to actually meet, exceed, and sustain that level of high performance for a long time.
Yeah, and sometimes there's some embarrassment or they reject the idea that they might have needs that they need to tend to in order to perform, or that they're not going to be able to do everything in the time period that they wish they would. Sometimes it's just optimism.
Absolutely. And I think you just nailed another pattern, which is that level of optimism. Like for so many of the folks that we work with, especially if they've got background in sales, some sort of C-level executive, they're founders, you have to have this optimism that regardless of what happens day in, day out, I'm going to wake up and I'm still going to go out there regardless of the results that may not have come in. I'm still going to keep that vision alive and I'm still going to go after it. And what are some of the dysfunctions would you say that you've seen for that optimistic persona?
I think it is taking on too much. It is ranking everything with the same level of priority, which means everything is on fire and needs your attention now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, even forecasting that we're going to close this much business in this amount of time and not in your mind clocking that as a best case scenario and still planning for what's the realistic scenario and the worst case scenario, because you're never going to get best case scenario 100% of the time.
And yeah, that's some of the top pitfalls and patterns that we've seen in some of these high achievers.
Excited to dive into them.
Let's do it.